sit.
Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
Garret Price.
How's it going?
And we are talking Dynasty Fantasy Football as we enter week 4 of the fantasy football season. It's just time flies when we're having fun. And boy, are we having a lot of fun unless your name is Russ Wilson because, just doing what he does, just getting sent to the benches. What a turd.
You couldn't even resist within like the first, 30 seconds of the show, already dissing Russ, man. Jeez.
It wasn't even a Jackson Dart thing. It was a Russ thing.
Yeah, totally.
Wasn't my bold prediction like he'd be benched by like a certain early on in the season because of his?
Dude, you made so many bold predictions. I can't even remember.
Calm down.
Bro, I have no idea.
Oh man, yeah. So
the only ones I remember are the ones that we had the same ones on, and I got mad. That's all I remember.
Yeah, of course, same one. Ditto. There's over the next 2 shows, if you feel like there's some information that we didn't cover, don't worry. Check out the other shows. Check out week 1. We do, in case anybody's not familiar with those ones, we do a risers and fallers episode. Garret and I, along with our friend and analyst, podcast host, Jagger May, we do a risers and fallers show where we're covering kind of like the instant reacts. So some people, like if you're like, hey, what's going on with Trey Benson? How do you value Trey Benson? Even more in depth about Cam Scatterby. We go in depth about those players right then and there. Matt, we've said we would give up a first, possibly even plus for Trey Benson in Dynasty. We'll be talking about Cam Scatterby over the next 2 shows, so I need to go in there as well because I like to get Matt's opinion on that. But today we're doing Garret. What are we talking today on today's podcast? What are we covering?
We've got 2 segments on today's show. First one here is going to be the worry-o-meter, and it's going to run just like the likelihood-meter. But instead of how likely something is to happen, it's how worried are we about said player? And we'll talk about them. And some guys we might be terrified, and other guys we might be like, no big deal. No worries.
So let's get this straight. 10 is terrified. 1 is not terrified at all.
Yeah, 1 is like no big deal. I don't even really know why we're talking about it. And we'll use the same scoring system. So depending on the position, you can kind of do some different things with the numbers there. And then segment number 2, Rich had a fun time with this one when we did it last year. So I brought it back. It's 1 word. And so I'm going to give everybody a player and they have 1 word to describe that player. Rich uses this as a segment to invent words.
Yes, he does.
So I'm excited to see what his 1 word for said players are. But
I did make up words every time last time, and I kind of I thought I did last year too, so I kind of stuck with that theme. I did a little bit of that again today. In this worry-o-meter, there's gonna be some players we don't talk about. Again, go back to that Monday's episode. Marvin Harrison Jr., Michael Penix, and Travis Hunter are 3 guys we talked about. Heads up, we were very worried about all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And hear why. I know the week before on that show, I said Michael Penix was a big sell for me in Superflex. So almost 2 weeks ago, or a little over a week ago, and he bounced back and took himself off the market because there ain't nobody buying.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's get into our first segment here. So worry-o-meter for Ashton Jeanty. Right now, he is averaging only 8.6 points per game. He is running back 32. That is currently lower on a points per game basis than Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt and Chase Brown. How worried are we about Ashton Jeanty?
So for me, listen, I'm going to practice some patience here and not get too crazy. My son, who is playing fantasy for the first time, picked Jeanty in the first round. So he's at like a 10. Oof. My son, he's worried. He doesn't know what to do. He's trying to figure out other guys to insert in the lineup. So I'm probably at half back, half points. I'm probably at like a 1.5. I'm really not worried about this right now. So I do think some guys just take a little bit of time. It feels like a guy that's trying to do too much right now. There was one disturbing video that I saw on the Googles and the internets of him kind of really not doing great in pass pro, which is worrisome. I mean, that's something that most guys need to get better at when they get to the NFL. But to see a guy kind of really missing assignments and almost half-assing some pass pro in real games is not a good look. So that's going to have to get cleaned up and get better. But Jeanty, as far as just running the ball, who else do they have on that team that's worth a damn to run the ball? No one. He's going to get the carries, and he's going to be able to round into shape, and he's going to do better than this.
Yeah, I'm only at like a 3.5 with Ashton Jeanty. I do have some concerns. You mentioned his pass protection's been poor. We've seen that, and what's concerning is too is like a lot of times when we preach, like if you could be a running back and you get all the touches in an offense, like you're just going to produce at a very solid level. Ashton Jeanty is in a situation with the Las Vegas Raiders where, listen, that offensive line, I thought it was going to be better, but
it's bad.
It's a really bad offensive line. He's consistently getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. That being said, I mean, this is a team that took this guy extremely high in the NFL draft. And this week 3, like his touches went down pretty drastically. I mean, they're essentially using him as a first. I thought they did in week 3.
I think he got 17 carries in week 3. It was the fact that he got no targets. That was the weird thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Not his touches. It was amount of, like, they weren't using him, like the amount of times he was on the field. Yeah.
He got no targets. Yeah.
He got 0 targets. And for me, I mean, right now on the season, he's only seeing a 5.7% target share. And that is no bueno for somebody who could really catch the football pretty well in college. So if he's going to be a first and second down running back, essentially, that's a little bit worrisome. Am I worried long term? No. But again, I mean, kind of piggybacking off of, we talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. On Monday's episode and how worried we were about, like, how much we were invested in him, how Garret had given him his all-time nerd score. Like, here we are, another one guy where we're like, hey, even in a Superflex league, this guy is the clear-cut 1-1. He's a special player. Almost like, redundant on what we were saying about Marvin Harrison Jr. the year previously at the receiver position. So, like, I would hate to see it kind of, we have back-to-back years of a player that, has all the potential in the world, but just can't get it done because of the system, or maybe it's not the system. Maybe it is the player that they're in. And again, I talk about Marv. Some of my concerns aren't system with Marv, but for me, not overly worried. Remember, we see a ton of these stud running backs who are currently stud running backs, are still young, start slow, right? Like, not all rookies are just dominant right away. A lot of rookies take time. We're going to talk about a guy later on, I don't know if it's this show or next show, who had a late start last year and then still finished at top 12 at their positional value. So Ashton Jeanty, some concerns. The biggest one is the passing involvement. But like I said, that offensive line's doing him no favors. He's getting touched behind the line of scrimmage repeatedly. Like, he almost likes people should be brought up on like sexual assault charges for how many hands they're getting at him.
Yeah, I'm splitting the difference. I was at a 2.5. So splitting the difference between you guys. There's a moderate level, but nothing super high. The tape I still think speaks for itself. And there are still times where you watch certain plays and you're like, oh man, that's what we were seeing in college, where he broke a tackle or two, showed some good contact balance, kept his feet, kept on churning. He hasn't broken a long one. He hasn't found a lot in the end zone. I do worry a little. I think the thing that puts it at 2.5 is that the lack of passing game involvement is probably the biggest thing for me. Like, I would like to see him with more targets. I believe he only had 1 in week 1, 2 in week 2, and then 0 this week. So there hasn't been a lot there. If a running back that's getting, he got 17 carries this week, a guy that's getting that many carries, you would hope he would be getting more like 3 to 4 targets a game. So that's the thing that I think that makes me the most hesitant right now. And it was enough, actually. I did a big rankings update today because I kind of feel like after 3 weeks, things are starting to solidify a little bit, and I feel better about kind of making some bigger movements. I actually moved Omari and Hampton ahead of Ashton Jeanty. Now, just by a spot, it's not much, but it was enough for me from what I saw last week, Najee going down, to say, okay, if I had to draft today, I might actually take Hampton higher. So it's still very close between those two guys. So I am worried, but not to a great extent. I still think he could be a special running back in this league. I still have him ranked as he's either I think he's my 5th running back. So nothing of major concern.
I mean, on those merits, you might as well move Quinshon Judkins to 1-1. He's looked absolutely fantastic.
He's looked really good.
He's looked like the best rookie running back so far.
He's going to have to battle Cam Scadaboo. He's looked pretty good too.
You're right. Get out the fencing swords. Those are called, I think those fencing swords are called APs? EPE?
I have no idea.
Yeah, get those things out. I know the spell. I don't know how to pronounce them because I've never fenced before. The only fence I've done is...
Not a fencer. Sorry. I can't help, man.
Yep. Never done it. All right. Next one here. Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. We know he was the number 4 wide receiver last year in points per game. This year, he is only averaging 8.5. Currently, wide receiver 53. Lower than Diami Brown and Alec Pierce right now in points per game. So what is the Wario meter? It's wide open. It's a wide receiver. What's the Wario meter for Brian Thomas Jr.?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the points per game and give this Wario meter 8.5.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'm really worried. And to be fair, this doesn't have to do anything with Brian Thomas. Like, to be fair, like, I think Brian Thomas, on film looks just fine. Like, he's getting open, looks a solid receiver. Trevor Lawrence has looked bad, man. Like, he's looked really bad. Travis Hunter, even though he's on the field, Parker Washington has stepped up pretty significantly. He's getting a lot of run. He looked good in the preseason, and you're just like, oh, whatever. Once Travis Hunter comes in there and starts running routes, no big deal about Parker Washington. Not the case, because Travis Hunter has not learned how to run routes in a couple months. And to be fair, it doesn't even look even close like he's learned how to run routes as well. He still looks just as raw as he did in college. But listen, it's going to take time. And they're probably, as they're moving Travis Hunter more on the defense, every single week, like he's playing more and more defense this week, 60% defensive snap shares, which is, again, worst case scenario for Travis Hunter owners. I'm so happy I moved him this week. I moved him for Lad McConkey. I gave a little bit of plus on top. I think I gave a second on top. And, Bill Krosky Merritt. I gave Bill Krosky Merritt a second and Travis Hunter for Lad McConkey. And I feel very, very handsome for doing so. But Brian Thomas, I mean, right now, like, nothing's working out there for Trevor Lawrence in the passing game. Like I said, right now you're seeing a guy like Parker Washington come in. He's running a ton of routes. Brian Thomas, like they're keeping everything short and sweet there as well. In Jacksonville, like throwing a lot of screens. Brian Thomas is not involved whatsoever. I think he's caught one of those screens throughout the whole year. Very worried. And the reason it's 8.5, let me say, it's about value, right? In ADP. And we kind of hit on him a little bit too on Monday, Garrett, just a little bit like overall value when you're wide receiver 4. Like at this rate, he's lucky if he's going to be a wide receiver 2. Like that from somebody who's getting flirted with like high second round startup value coming off wide receiver 4 overall, he had a monumental skyrocket ADP jump. And rightfully so, because he looks so good and so dominant. But this situation, it's still early. I'm not freaking out yet. But the offensive play calling, Trevor Lawrence, and the big thing here is Jagger pointed us out until this, which honestly should be remedied soon, is just to name Shane Waldron. Like, he is a wide receiver murderer. Like, he just goes out and he slays the Dragons, and those Dragons are your fantasy football wide receivers. And this is ridiculous, right? He needs to become one of those White Walkers and go somewhere else, because everywhere he goes, man, from Jaxon Smith-Njigba to Garrett Wilson, now he's got our hands on Brian Thomas. And maybe that's why even Trevor Lawrence looks so bad, because his bad mojo is run off on Trevor Lawrence. But like, this looks really bad. And it should be to nobody's surprise right now. So if Shane Waldron is going to stick around the whole season, which to him, he doesn't very good job doing that lately. I don't see anything to be optimistic about Brian Thomas for 2025. Now, this is Dynasty we play. So that being said, looking ahead at the 8.5, I'm hoping a lot of other people feel that as well. And maybe there'll be a buy window for Brian Thomas. Like maybe there'll be a receiver that kind of steps up here that can, you'll be able to move and kind of get a Brian Thomas for some kind of discount. Maybe you can give maybe a couple more weeks from now, you can give like a Michael Pittman and a first for Brian Thomas. Again, that sounds outlandish to even say right now, but if he can't get over this 10 points per game and he's going to stick right around like wide receiver 40, like that's a problem for a lot of people.
I mean, I agree that would be a problem. I don't know that it's going to stay that bad. I mean, obviously the average this past game, two catches, 55 yards, went way up. He was down at 11 and 12.3 in the first two games, which is below what he had last year. But you got to question how much of it is this wrist injury and how much of it, with the early season drops and all that kind of stuff that really affected both of those, for first and second, maybe even this third game. If they're kind of fudging how much he's participating or how injured he really is, how much is it affecting him? That's what I'm kind of trying to calculate and figure out in my brain. Because obviously wide receivers with wrist injuries, that can have a huge effect on your ability to catch the ball. We saw it last year with a guy like Xavier Legette, who had a wrist injury. Obviously, he hasn't bounced back or anything this year. That might just be a him
He's
thing.
doing so much better now.
That might just be a him thing, and he's just not good. And did you hear that? I said that out loud. I've been thinking that about Xavier Legette for a while now. Now I'm saying it out loud, so that's bad. But Brian Thomas, I'm not freaking out right now. I'm at like a 4.13333 with the line over the top, just the repeater
Infinite.
3.
Yeah.
So I'm not freaking out. Obviously, there's got to be some concern because guys sometimes have big years in their rookie season, and then you just kind of never hear of them again. And I don't think Brian Thomas is that guy. But when you see such a big step back, obviously there's so many moving pieces that go into that. I mean, the whole offense is new, all that kind of stuff. So they're asking him to maybe do some things that he didn't do last year in his fantastic rookie season. So it's hard to nail down. There's a lot of moving pieces in this Brian Thomas. I'm not going to freak out until I know he's kind of fully healthy and he's still not producing. Then my worry-o-meter is going to go kind of up in an upward trajectory.
Looks like I'm going to just keep playing the middleman. I was right in between. I did a 6.123. I have to be careful on Brian Thomas because last year the pitchforks came out when I suggested that Brian Thomas was just a good receiver and maybe not special, and there's some players I'd rather have above him. And to be honest, I ate a lot of crow. He ended up being wide receiver 4. But
the X/Twitter, by far the most hate you have ever gotten in the industry ever. And it went on for weeks and months.
Oh my goodness. Because
they did not die.
The shorts, the shorts wouldn't die. So on YouTube and TikTok and everything too, it just kept popping back up because more people would comment on it. So it just kept popping back up. Anyway, that to be said, I don't have any Brian Thomas shares, so I'm not invested in this at all in that sense. But I still just don't know that he's a special player. I think he's a good linear, down the field player. And I don't know that Trevor Lawrence is good at connecting with him. Where were most of his stats? It was with Mac Jones last year that was actually getting him a lot of his stats last year. And so
Mac Jones.
Who? So when I look at this, and this was something I was kind of suggesting this offseason too, that we're all assuming big production boost because of Liam Cohen. Sometimes that doesn't work, and I feel like we're artificially baking in a lot of stuff, and there's a lot that could still go wrong. And so far it has. Could things adjust and get better? Of course. Sometimes teams just have slow starts, and then they right the ship, and it's great. Think about Sean Payton's start in Denver. Did not go well. They righted the ship and things were better. So we'll see what happens. But I am concerned. I do think this is going to lower his ADP a decent amount. That being said, I actually there have been some people have been like, well, would you buy Brian Thomas in this trade? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I don't think he's dead. I don't think he's no longer, potentially a solid wide receiver too. I just don't know that we ever see him as wide receiver 4 again. His rookie year might have been his high water mark.
Yeah, so
maybe you had it right when you were talking about Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean? Like, you were like, maybe Trevor Lawrence is not good, and you kept going.
Yeah.
At whatever, going deep or whatever. Maybe he's just not good. Like, period. In a sentence, you know what I mean? Maybe he's just an okay quarterback, and he's not a good quarterback, and so maybe they're gonna have to figure that out there. He's only completing 55% of his passes, 55.8% of his passes this year. Horrible number, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. None of these are like great starting quarterback numbers in the NFL. Obviously, such a small sample size, this can totally change with a good game. You know what I mean? Right. And everything could kind of turn around and like you said, right the ship. So who knows? And I think this one is, in general, this whole team is hard to kind of, you can't totally throw them out yet. It's just too early in the process of a new offense, a new, all that kind of stuff. That's why I'm not worried yet. If it's, another 3 weeks from now and it still looks like this and it's still going bad and Brian Thomas is not on any injury report and Trevor Lawrence is still only completing 56% of his passes, then it's bad. It's time to worry then. Because then they might be looking for new pieces at places. I don't think Brian Thomas would be the person that they're moving out, but Trevor Lawrence for sure could be on his. Well, I guess the money says no, but
it says no.
Teams have said screw that before, so you never know these days.
And I just want to emphasize again, none of my concerns have to do with Brian Thomas. It's everything around Brian Thomas is my concern. But I think there's two guys out there that I think that were behind on my ADP. I think the first one on my name is probably ready to jump him in ADP. I know I've moved him up ahead of my rankings, but to be fair, in Dynasty sometimes where people still love a player a ton, they could think there's an opportunity to get a player they love because they haven't performed some, which is right. That's the right way to play Dynasty, right? Like when you find these buy windows, go get those guys you believe in. So if you still believe in Brian Thomas, which you really should, go get him. But if you were presented either one of these guys, would you take them for Brian Thomas? Because I think I would take them both over Brian Thomas. One easily, and the first one's Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I would easily take him over Brian Thomas right now. I'm prepared to move Jaxon Smith-Njigba up like right outside that elite tier, essentially, like right outside of that Justin Jefferson. And I think he's inching closer to Justin Jefferson than even some would like to admit. I think I would take Jaxon Smith-Njigba even over a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown, just because of the usage out there. So I think that one's easy for me. I like to hear if you guys would take Jaxon Smith-Njigba over him. And Garret Wilson's another one. And no, it's not 2 Ohio State players on purpose, but Garret Wilson, who just, we'll talk about him later, so I'm going too much into the details, but are those 2 players that you would take both over Brian Thomas today?
For what it's worth, I just did my big rankings update today. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is my wide receiver 6. And Garret Wilson is my wide receiver 9. Both are ahead of Brian Thomas Jr.
Okay. Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I think he's right there in the conversation with both of those guys. I think I have Garret Wilson, I believe, ahead of Jaxon Smith-Njigba in my rankings. I can't remember off the top of my head. But the thing about a guy like Brian Thomas, and that we can't kind of lose sight of, is his like ability to be explosive and like a huge playmaker, right? I mean, sure. that's maybe something that like a Jaxon Smith-Njigba kind of lacks. He'll catch a ton of passes, but you know what I mean? Like the big play stuff kind of isn't there. So it's as much. It's still there. It's just not there as much as it is.
He
with
offers
like
the Julio
Brian Thomas.
Jones archetype, Brian Thomas.
What'd you say?
So Brian Thomas offers you like that Julio Jones like archetype.
Body type and explosiveness and playmaking ability. Yeah. So that's That's where I struggle, right?
I'm saying the offers on the table today. Again, it's a game of windows we play. I mean, week in, week out. Right. Like we're talking about players. We're talking about value. So just saying today, like if you could, Garrett and I both would.
But I personally rarely make a short-sighted move like that. You know what I mean? Like I'll take the points today, and who cares about the
so far? It's not giving you any
of
points today. So
yeah, no. So Matt, if you have Brian Thomas and I sent either of those guys, two separate teams, I send one's Garrett Wilson and one is Jaxon Smith-Njigba, you would decline both those offers today.
I don't know that I would decline both of them. I'm just trying to give a counterpoint to like this quick. Yes, both these guys are. Garrett Wilson, I think I have slightly above, and it is because his playmaking ability. So I think I would probably do the Garrett Wilson one, and I don't know if I could do the Jaxon Smith-Njigba, but he's close. He's like
that's the easy one for me. That's a slam dunk. Like,
right.
I took it another step. So I'm curious what you guys think. So Brian Thomas Jr. is wide receiver 13 for me overall. Now, granted, he was always lower for me than other people. I had him in the offseason around like 8-9.
Yeah, the world knows you're a hater. We know.
Yeah, but here's the two of the guys that are ahead of him right now that are maybe going to be surprising to some people.
Ooh, another clip we could put out there for you to be hated
on. Yeah, I'm going to get to Pete. Don't clip this.
48 months straight of Garrett getting hated on. This guy's still talking all this BS.
I was depressed for months. Rome Odunze and Tet McMillan. I have both of those guys over Brian Thomas Jr.
I was actually going to ask about Tet McMillan straight up when Rich was talking. So I get that.
I won't argue it. I would say that would be tier based for me if we had a tier line, and I would be totally comfortable with it.
Rome, they're all in the same tier for me. Yep.
Yeah, Rome has established itself as a clear cut number one. Maybe we'll see. I'm already starting to hear these rumblings of DJ Moore potentially being traded, which he should probably get traded somewhere where he could be utilized and loved.
Have you heard anything about DJ Moore? Like, what is going on behind the scenes there? Because there's got to be some funk going on, right?
I just don't know if Ben Johnson has a role for him in his offense. I was way off on that. I thought he would. I thought he would be the most touches. Boy, was I wrong. Never doubt Rome's talent.
I've heard some rumblings of like weird attitude stuff again with DJ Moore, which obviously last year, like he walked off the field in the middle of the play and all that kind of stuff. I mean,
he doesn't like Chicago.
Maybe he's just a jerk, and you know what I mean. A selfish player. I don't know. I don't know.
I would never sign a player in those terms.
Hey, listen. Listen, and all I said was maybe. I don't know this for a fact or anything like that. I've just kind of heard weird rumblings about that kind of stuff, so I don't know.
All right, we are at 28 minutes and we have covered 2 players. Hey, Nerd Herd, want to tell you about a show that we've been doing live on YouTube where we go over your teams and we talk about how to fix your broken roster. It's called Roster Rescue. We do it live every single Monday at noon Eastern time. And if you want to get a part of that, just head to our Dynasty Nerds homepage, go under the store tab, and you'll find Roster Rescue right there. Perfect opportunity to get your rosters in shape before the season or even in the middle of the season to make sure that you can win a championship. So let's go on to player number 3 here.
Garrett, you know how we ramble after a big baseball win. It's just,
that's true.
You know
We're
what
all
I mean?
excited for the Guards.
Come on. You haven't started so late to watch the time. Come on. First place in AL Central.
Largest
comeback in baseball history.
Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott, a guy that I was hyping up a lot this offseason. He's only at 15 points per game right now. And that puts him at quarterback 18, which is lower than Spencer Rattler and Geno Smith. So what is the worryometer on Dak Prescott?
My worryometer with Dak Prescott, especially with the CeeDee Lamb, obviously, injury and missing 2 to 4 weeks or whatever it is. I think it's going to go up. This is a weird offense, right? He's tied right now for the lead in pass attempts, 126, with none other than Cleveland's own Joe Flacco. Which, if you told me that he was the other guy that was leading the league, I would have told you you're a liar. but he's all, he's got 800 yards, which I think is also pretty high. If he's fourth, but it's the touchdowns. He only has 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. So that's what's I mean, that one can be a weird fluky kind of stat and kind of come in bunches. So I'm worried because CD's down, obviously, but they still have some good players on this team. So call a quarterback, quarter points. I'm gonna go 5.25. I mean, this is a new offense, a little bit more run heavy, maybe around the goal line than we had hoped. And I don't know. That's 5.25.
Yeah, I was going to go 4.75. That's the big thing. They're running in the red zone inside the 10-yard line at a very high level, and Jeanty is producing. Yeah, I think it comes down to like why I was so worried about Brian Thomas it came down to expectations, right? Like we had hoped Dak was going to come out here and the defense would be so bad, which it is, arguably the worst defense in the NFL, easily. And he was just going to magically come out here and chuck the ball up and throw for 8,000 yards and score a ton of fantasy points. Javonte Williams has changed all that, and he's run the ball really well out there. So they're really just running the ball because honestly, the offensive line's not that great either. Dak hasn't been able to rush the ball in years like how he used to, and he's quarterback 18, and that's fine. That's still a capable player for your dynasty roster. So like I am not as worried because like this is probably more reality of what his ADP is, where he's going age wise. Still time to go up, but like if I have Dak, like I'd hoped that we're gonna get a ton of action out here, but like at the same time, this is where he's really valued. So I'm just not that. I think more likely than not, this is what we're gonna kind of get out of Dak, with some sprinkled in big games, right? Like with that defense. When CD comes back, he's always in line to have, a 5 touchdown, 350-yard game for sure. But on a points per game basis, on a week in, week out basis, we're probably looking more at quarterback 13 to 18 right in there in that range, with no mobility out there. So I'm not overly worried. I think this is kind of like, it is what it is. It's a mirror. I can see it. It's just okay. I'm just glad somebody else cares.
So when you look in the mirror, you see Dak Prescott?
He just sees okay.
He
said
his personal reference.
I'm not as worried here. It's a lower worry meter for me. So for me, I just had it at a 3.25, but I do have a little more optimistic hope for the future. When you look at the next few games and things like that, I do think better days are ahead for Dak Prescott. Right now, yes, it's the touchdowns. Like we saw it in week 1, he's not playing poorly. And Matt referenced the most pass attempts in the NFL. So if you're throwing the ball that much, that just kind of tells me that things have been a little bit unlucky. And I just don't see that changing. Yes, Javante's been awesome, which I have been thrilled with. But they're still going to have to throw to stay in games. And Javonte will be part of that receiving game. So I just don't think that's changing. I don't think they're going to be playing from, a big lead very often. I think it'll either be close games or they're going to be down a touchdown or two. So
what makes you say that? The big booty hole of a defense?
Man, I just wish like they could play like the Bears and the Bengals and teams like that every week and just see like first 1 to 50 wins. Like those kind of games, because there's some bad defenses in the NFL.
Third quarter finish. Okay, all right.
Forget Miami as well.
Yeah. Throw Miami in there. Like just let those 4 or 5 teams just play each other all the time and just stupid amount of fantasy points. So I do think better days are ahead. But Rich, I don't think you're far off. You said 13 to 18. 13 was kind of the range I was thinking. Now I was gonna go like more 10 to 13. So your high end would be my low end, but I do think we're going to see better out of Dak Prescott.
I just think the guys ahead of him are just what's going to keep him down too.
Geno Smith,
Spencer back soon.
Keep him back.
No, not those. Yeah, I mean, obviously, with the quarterback market, Daniel Jones is playing at a really good high level. I mean, the team has only punted 3 times all year. Danny Dimes, please welcome me back into the fan club. I am happy to be here.
All right, let's go to another team that has an injury that's plaguing the offense a little bit here. Chase Brown Chase Brown only 9.2 points per game. That puts him at running back 29, currently lower than Nick Chubb and Dylan Sampson. So not good so far for Chase Brown. So looking at him, what's our worry-o-meter on Chase Brown?
10.5.
Yeah, it's a weird question. Go ahead, Matt.
10.5. I mean, dude's averaging 2 yards a carry. 2 yards a carry. It's not like, listen, no defense is going to respect the other side of the ball right now. I mean the passing game. So it's everyone just has to load up, stop the run, and dare people to all right, go ahead. Let's see if you can throw the ball. I mean, at all. That's obviously they've got great weapons, but their backup quarterback is exposed, I feel like, and it's just going bad, and it's just going to keep getting worse. The offensive line isn't great. It's what Joe Burrow got. That's why Joe Burrow got injured. So it's bad, man. It's really bad.
Yeah, their run offensive line is absolutely abysmal. We talk about Ashton Jeanty getting hit behind the line of scrimmage. I think he leads the NFL in that. I think Chase Brown's second in there. And this is an unfair question to me because I've been a Chase Brown hater since the moment I watched his college tape. I mean, this is a player I compare it to, saying if the defensive line was brown paper bags at the goal line, he still has a chance of not getting through. So, again, he really looked good in the passing game last year in the speed, which he's fine there. Like, he's not a solid running back. I've been saying sell Chase Brown for as loud as I possibly can on this podcast. I've never been in on Chase Brown. And right now he's dealing with a situation where the offensive line is absolutely atrocious. You have no respect to the run game whatsoever as it is. But like with a backup quarterback, like you'd hoped with Chase Brown, like this was going to be a high tempo, offense with Joe Burrow. And he was going to get some of those dump offs, the screens. We've seen they throw a lot of screens out there, and he's just not a bit a part of that. He's getting absolutely destroyed at the line of scrimmage or even behind the line of scrimmage. His only value is in the passing game. There's not a lot of upside here.
Rich,
let me ask you this.
0.02 yards before contact before Chase Brown. 0.02. So
did you see Jeanty's? He has 144 rushing yards on the season, and he has 145 yards after contact. He has more yards after contact than yards.
Yeah, and the difference is he's really good. Exactly. So these are two guys who are getting smothered at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. And the difference is Ashton Jeanty's a really, really good running back, and Chase Brown's just not.
Let me ask you guys this, because we're all not fans of Chase Brown. We've made that clear on the show. However, if you are a rebuild team and you're looking ahead to next season already, would you throw out a low ball offer just to see if you could get something or no?
For Chase Brown?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe it. I didn't believe him when it was crushing last year.
I would. Like, if depending on how far this drops, we expect Joe Burrow to be back next year, and he'll gain most of that value back. So I would as a rebuild team, I would be willing to throw out, like, if it gets to the point where it's like, hey, I'll give you a late second. Okay. Like, and I would do that.
Late seconds are almost like you're giving away, but it's gonna be a hard time when J.K. Dobbins is a starter running back for the Bengals. So you're gonna have a real hard time.
That's what I was just looking up. So Chase Brown, he's in his second last year. So next year would be his last year of his deal. I was wondering if this was his last year. Yeah, but he does have 1 year remaining. I don't think I would do a second. I think he is replaceable. I don't know that they do it, but I think he's a replaceable talent. So I'm not going to throw on a rebuild. I'd rather just have my second round draft pick.
And Garret, I think you probably get 2 seconds for Chase Brown. If I'm being fair, like a lot of people need running back help. Say you want to,
you probably could right now. Yeah, I was just saying for like if it drops to that point where people are like desperate and just get him off my team.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, if he's getting touches at the end of the year, and I need a running back, I'll give a late second for anybody who's getting touches. Like if I'm trying to fill out some depth, and he's
remember, you're not a contender, you're a rebuild. You're just getting him.
Oh yeah, no way
for 26.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, well, it's not a late second. That's an early second.
you're giving a late second. It's not your second. You're giving a late second.
Oh, so like this, you're talking about this 0.01% scenario. Got it.
And rebuilds, you get tons of extra draft picks. That happens most rebuilds.
Come on.
What's higher, that percentage or the yards before contact for Chase Brown?
Let's go to a guy that you loathe to a guy that you love. RJ Harvey, 5.33 points per game, currently running back 48, lower than Blake Corum and Jeremy McNichols. I know, Rich, you specifically really, really high on this kid. J.K. Dobbins kind of got invited to the party and kind of messed things up for this year at least. What's your worry-o-meter?
Zero. J.K. Dobbins looks good again because I mentioned before when I was hyped about RJ Harvey, this is one of the best run blocking offensive lines in the NFL. The team is currently averaging 5.1 yards per carry. J.K. Dobbins is doing just fine in that offense. He looks good. He's going to be the starter. They're going to mix some touches. At some point, maybe Harvey get a little bit more involved. But we knew this is how it was going to play out once they pretty much signed J.K. Dobbins. All reports came out that J.K. Dobbins was going to be the starter. I said I was sad about it when Benjamin Albright, the Broncos insider over there, said this was the case as well, to expect J.K. to be the guy this year. He's on a one-year deal. From a dynasty perspective, I have zero worries whatsoever about RJ Harvey. Zero. Literally zero. If anything, I'm excited because once that now that we know that Evan Ingram's not the Joker and he's not involved in this offense, once JK does leave, we're going to look at about probably a 2 to 3 year window of RJ Harvey most likely being a dominant dynasty asset. I am buying the dip. I had a real interesting offer come to me today in a league, I really don't want to do this. It's funny. I was talking to Jaxon Smith-Njigba so much. Somebody offered me like, hey, do you want a 26 first and a 27 first for Jaxon Smith-Njigba? Probably later first in both. And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like right away. No. And they're like, what if I give you RJ Harvey in those two first? And now like, I'm probably still going to decline it, but like, I'm still contemplating it because my receivers, I have Ricky Pearsall, I got Rashee Rice, I got a couple other receivers that offset it, but I'm probably still going to decline it because that's how much I believe in Jaxon Smith-Njigba. But long term, from a dynasty, this is a perfect buy window for me. I have no problem if I'm a contender paying a first for RJ Harvey today without the realization that I'm going to get any real value out of there unless J.K. Dobbins goes out with an injury. This is 100% a buy for me. I am still all in on RJ Harvey.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's barely anything if there is any sort of worry there. So I'll half point. I'll give it a half point. There you go for the halfback, just so there's at least something on the board because Rich is going to, obviously give us a 0. So I'm going to give a half point just because you never know what happens. You never know what could happen. J.K. Dobbins could be the man.
Russian record this time to extension because he only accepts a deal for $8 a year.
Yes, exactly.
$8.
Hey, $0.5
bucks.
I still have a very low one on this too. I was at a 2, so I'm not really very worried at all on this. I was also a little lower on RJ Harvey than other people. He is an older running back, so next year's 25.
Is he 24? Yeah. Right.
He's 24 right now, so he'll be 25 next year. So he just doesn't have the window to give up extra years like some of the other guys do. But it kind of reminds me similar of the Trey Benson last year, where I believed in the player. Rich believes in the player. If you believe in the player, you got to wait a little bit longer. It's not the end of the world. But was there a little bit of doubt that crept in my mind at times where I'm like, man, RJ Harvey this week, 2 carries for 2 yards. Like, I don't love that. That's not great. So like there'll be some of that where you're like, I wish he would be a little more involved as a rookie, right? But I still believe in the player, so I'm not going to be overly concerned.
There's always got to be a little worry, right? Like it's like he could be Jalen Righted, right? I mean, they could just go out and get Ollie Gordon next year and just totally just shunt him to the side, and who knows? You know what I mean? So there's a little bit. I don't think he's going to be, but
I don't think so either. That's why I only have it at a 2. Yeah. But I thought it was at least worth bringing up so far. Let's get to our final one here. Rich, 2 guys in a row that you love. Lad McConkey, only 10.4 points per game. That puts him at wide receiver 40 right now, lower than Cedric Tillman and Calvin Austin. And so far, it's only 3 weeks, but so far, A lot of Keenan Allen, and surprisingly, a lot of Quentin Johnston as well early on. Ladd McConkey kind of been playing the third fiddle for the first 3 weeks. So what's your worry-o-meter on Ladd McConkey?
0.
2 zeros in a row.
Yeah, dude. Ladd McConkey. Remember last year, Ladd McConkey? I think it was right around like not now or the next week. I was like, dude, buy all Ladd McConkey shares. Like everything I'm seeing on tape telling me this dude's about to bust out and has a chance to like put up wide receiver 1 numbers. And like, I mean, literally right around this time, like I was preaching the same exact thing 12 months ago. And then what do? He bust out. He was a wide receiver 1, and he was a dynasty darling. I'm telling you, man, the tape says the same thing. Fantasy data, fantasy points data is saying that same exact thing. Like they have that score, that AS score, the average separation score. Like he's still dominating. Like leads, like tops in the, like some of the tops in the leagues. Like, and the tape says the same thing. Like he's just consistently getting open. They peppered in Keenan Allen, who already had a rapport with Justin Herbert, who's also a very savvy route runner, very smart wide receiver. Quentin Johnston actually is playing better than he's ever, which doesn't take much, to be honest with you. Just catch a football and you're playing better with Quentin Johnston. So they're throwing the football a ton. I mean, Justin Herbert's throwing the football like 35, 40 times a game. So Ladd is just fine. And especially, again, same thing. Long-term, Ladd is even more golden, right? Keenan Allen's off this team after this year. So not only do I think he'll be fine for the rest, throughout of 2025, I still think he's a dynasty gold nugget, and I would absolutely love to buy Ladd McConkey for any path, any avenue there is. I want Ladd McConkey on my roster. He still looks just as good, if not better, than he did last year.
Agreed. Quentin Johnston, 24 targets, Keenan Allen, 28 right now, and 21 for Ladd. So it's not like Ladd is that far behind. Like it's only a 3-game stretch. He's 3 targets behind a guy like Quentin Johnston. So he's getting involved. They're just spreading it around a little bit more. I think that Keenan Allen last minute addition kind of to the team, I think did kind of swirl things around a little bit, especially early here. But I would expect it to settle in as Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen. And, obviously they're taking shots with Quentin Johnston and they're hitting right now. But if they run into a stretch where they're not hitting for a couple of games, I think they're going to fall right back to their safety blankets. And that's obviously Ladd McConkey and Keenan Allen. So I would expect to see a little bit more out of him going forward as well, Rich. So you said 0. I'm not going to go 0 again. I'll do like 2, just because you never know. Quentin Johnston maybe never drops another pass and stops body catching everything and all of a sudden becomes the man. You know what I mean? So there's got to be a little bit of worry just in case, because it does seem like, they're force feeding him the ball. 24 targets through 3 games is a pretty good clip for a guy that we expected to be more of a go long guy. So we'll see. I just don't know that Quentin Johnston can kind of sustain what he's doing right now.
Yeah, I had a 1.1 on this, so very, very, very little concern at all. Ladd McConkey still a stud. This is a great buy window. I totally agree there with you, Rich. If there's a dip, I'm buying. The reason it's not a 0 and I still have a 1.1 is similar to what you said, Matt. Quentin Johnston doesn't look terrible. Omarion Hampton now getting involved more. So we'll see if they start, maybe not as many shootouts and they get up. Are they going to start to run the ball a little bit more and, go back to their roots? And, we'll just see. There's weird things that could happen. But overall, not worried about Ladd McConkey. Rich, let's talk about some of our sponsors here.
Yeah, if you're talking about some cool in-season stuff that's stupendously satisfying, FastDraft is where it's at. Get some best ball in there. Have some really cool contests going on right now where you just draft 6 skill position players, no QBs, no kickers. Then you just apply that captain boosters that multiply the points up to 2 times. That sleeper rookie that you love, that you found in our film room, you boost him up, watch your profits soar in when he explodes on the field for fantasy dominance. Choose between 6, a quick 6 super slam, or a flex 6 frenzy tournament with a guaranteed prize pool. First place pays 30%. That's a $300 profit on a single $5 entry. And this is where all of us dominate, right? all of us who've been put on this time, listen to all these podcasts, we know what to look for, right? Like we are finding these guys to get in and get off of. That's to help us win these kind of these games. So right now, go in there, go to FastDraft. Make sure you got to use that promo code NERDS, and FastDraft will match your deposit 100% up to $100. But it doesn't end there. Why you got to use that promo code NERDS? Because if you are new to Dynasty Nerds, you love our shows, you've been checking out our app. We have a big update coming out very, very soon. You use that promo code NERDS. We're going to give you a free 1-year membership to the Dynasty Nerds bundle. It's a $70 value, absolutely free for using that promo code. If you're already a member, don't worry. We're going to send you a $25 gift card to our store to grab that Dynasty Nerds gear to make you look very, very more attractive. So don't go another Sunday without profiting from your Dynasty Nerds knowledge. Use that promo code NERDS. Let's turn this knowledge into cash. The link is in the show notes.
All right, guys, let's get to our second segment here. And this segment is called One Word. I'm going to give you a player, and you got to give me the one word that comes to mind when I say that player's name. So this time we'll start with Matt on this one, and we'll alternate who gets to go first. So, Matt, we'll start with you first. Davante Adams.
I would say the one word that comes to mind with Davante Adams nowadays is ageless, right? This dude, unbelievable what he's doing right now. Averaging 16.4 yards per reception, which, oh, by the way, is his career high through 3 games. So, I mean, obviously it isn't a full season, but last time he was up this high was 2022, his first year in Las Vegas, where he had over 1,500 yards receiving that year and 14 touchdowns. So, I mean, dude's 32 years old and still putting on clinics. You know what I mean? So, ageless has got to be the first thing that pops to my mind right now.
All right, Rich, what word did you come up with for Davante Adams?
Wrinkle Warrior. The guy's just old, but he's still out there fighting.
It's two words, man. That isn't a word. Wrinkle Warrior?
Wrinkle Warrior. Yeah, like if you're like if you're like a San Diego Charger, that's one word.
San Diego Supercharger.
3.
Yeah, that's it. Calm down, Garret. I understand. He's Wrinkle Warrior. One word. That's his name. Wrinkle Warrior. WW for short. And for me, and Matt nailed on the head, man. Wide receiver 13 on the year. Doing extremely well, and it's just target share. Nobody else is getting football except for Puka Nacua, wide receiver 1 overall, and Davante Adams. They're seeing about 65, almost 70% of the targets out there in LA. And you're right, he just looks. He looks like he could play for another 3 years. That's what he looks like. Going down as one of the greatest dynasty wide receiver picks of all time. Like he's in that, like from a longevity standpoint, you look at guys like obviously you played back in the day. You got Jerry Rice, then you got Larry Fitzgerald, who did it for a very long time, but he had to suffer for some bad quarterback play for a while. Davante Adams has produced year in, year out for what feels like infinity. I think one of the first classes we ever covered, Matt, here at Dynasty Nerds 12 years ago was like the Davante Adams class, if I remember right. And if not, it had to be the second, but I believe it was the first. So
your memory might be better than mine on that one. I don't remember.
Wrinkle Warrior, Davante Adams.
What does that make us if he's a wrinkle warrior and we covered him?
You remember that thing in Billy Madison when they were doing the challenges and the guy fell over on the bench. He was wearing those short shorts.
No, what? I have an idea of what happened.
Bumblebee tuna.
Bumblebee tuna.
All right. Well, I busted out the thesaurus because I was like, I know the words that I want, but I want more clever words than the basic.
Oh, look at you.
So my word was going to be undervalued, but I was like, no. We'll get the thesaurus this. Disparaged. Disparaged is the word that I will go with. Look, here he's a player that for the past 4 seasons, we've been trying to put this guy in the retirement home. And so his value has just been super cheap. And there's certain players where you can buy old and just reap the benefits for year after year after year after year. And that's what Davante Adams is. And it's, Rich and I were talking about this on one of the shows recently, but we're starting to see this more and more often, especially from some of the elite type players, the difference making type players where, the Derrick Henrys, the Saquon Barkleys, the Davante Adams, some of these guys just tend to play longer, partly because they're so skilled, partly because medicine's getting better. Like all of these things, I think
training's getting better, medicine's getting better.
Yeah. So I think with all of that, he has been a disparaged asset that you have just really been able to capitalize on over.
Look at the big brains on Brad over there.
I mentioned that back, like Garret said, on multiple shows. We do so many shows now, like it's hard for me to keep track, but I've mentioned the fact that like if anybody's still playing Dynasty where they're like looking to like sell at a massive discount at the age of 28, like I'm swooping it up all day using a guy. And it kind of like, wow, so much I gave Saquon such a bump at 28 years old because like I was like, if Derrick Henry is still doing it at a high level, why can't Saquon in 3 years? So yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's go to the next one. Rich, you get to start this one. Caleb Williams.
Lucky Nail BJ.
Wait, what?
Lucky Nail BJ.
One word. Again? Lucky Nail BJ. All right, what does that mean?
BJ. I feel like he's, obviously he's got those very fancy looking nails. So, he's got those nice looking nails. And I think he's lucky to be involved with Ben Johnson right now. I think this offense is doing him BJ for short.
Ben Johnson. All right. Lucky Nail Ben Johnson.
Lucky Nail BJ. sounds like a video I watched once. So for me, listen, I'm real torn on Caleb Williams. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, even on my Rich Rebar show before the season started, like I have some concerns with Caleb Williams where like I don't love his accuracy a ton, and he's still super young, but like, man, like after this week, I went in a couple of leagues where I have Caleb Williams shares, and like I was sending offers out there trying to like kind of capitalize on this big week. I would love to tier down from Caleb Williams just to feel a little bit safer. I think he's benefiting from Ben Johnson's offense, which is stupendous. I think he's benefiting from having so many good weapons around him. And I think they're doing a really good job of utilizing them. Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monunga is looking good in the ground game. So for me, I just think I still have a lot of reservation about Caleb Williams, which is weird to be a number one overall pick, to be a young Dynasty quarterback. And the funny thing is, like, I think he'll produce because of this offense. Like, I really do, in the weapons around him. I think he'll still be a valuable.
He's QB3 right now.
Yeah, like he's doing really, really well. And obviously, last week when you throw like 5 touchdowns, like it's going to bump you up pretty significantly after 3 weeks in the overall fantasy ranks. But like, for me, if there's a chance to like turn Caleb Williams into Brock Purdy plus, again, I know I always pivot at the player. And he's a player who's down right now. Like, I would love to be able to get, and maybe I lose that in the long run. It's just, I think from a confidence level, like if I can get a 27 first in Brock Purdy for Caleb Williams, coming off for this big, massive week, and the fact that he's QB3 and Brock Purdy's hurt, and the fact that every single week somebody else dies on the San Francisco 49er. It's like back in the day, the medieval days, and a black plague is running strictly through the San Francisco 49ers locker room because people are dropping off every single week. And it's starting off with their high-level players, too, at first. Like, please put Christian McCaffrey in one of those bubbles back in the day when you're going to get those people that, couldn't be.
Bubble boy.
Yeah, Bubble Boy CMC, please. I'm just a little bit more concerned. And shout out to everybody in Chicago for producing. It's his accuracy level. Like, all the concerns I had about CJ Stroud, at least Caleb Williams could look like. I went through looking at the numbers because I didn't want to say his accuracy is so off without looking at it. And I use Fantasy Points Data a ton, which is a fantastic website. And know who's number one, in accuracy, like over the last couple of years? CJ Stroud. Caleb Williams has entered the market as well from last year to this year as well. So I am concerned about Lucky Nails BJ.
Okay. So my one word for Caleb Williams, since we're on that and not on a Wario meter, is unrefined. And I think it speaks a lot to what Rich was kind of saying. So I don't know that we have to go over that again. But I feel like when we're seeing Caleb look really, really good is in that first scripted drives. Like, you go through those things, exactly what's coming next, and you just kind of go right down your play sheet basically. But when he gets off script and past that first drive, things start to break down, and that's where I see accuracy issues and all that kind of stuff. So it's Caleb Williams is just, there's always been an unrefined element to his game when I'm watching him. Even going back to college, that was one of the biggest knocks I had on him. And in Ben Johnson's offense, I don't know that plays as well as in other offenses. He wants a guy that's going to, hit a spot and get rid of the ball, hit his back foot and go. And I don't know if it's going to be a thing that he can kind of coach out of Caleb Williams, because I feel like that is at Caleb Williams' core, is that improvisation and kind of just off-platform throws and all. He's always going to want to do that when he's in distress. So unrefined is how I feel about Caleb Williams, and it's why I went out and got Tyson Bagent. And I know Tyson Bagent isn't a great asset, but he was available in a league where I had an open roster spot. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to grab him just in case, like, they get tired of seeing Caleb do this kind of stuff and they turn to Bagent at some point during the season. I don't expect that to happen because, obviously the draft capital and all that would say, they're going to stick with Caleb for a while. But there's just something about him, to Rich's point, that it's just something's missing, and it is that refinement, I think.
So the word I ended up going with here is volatile, and the reason I think that he's a volatile asset, kind of think of it as stocks or crypto or something like that. Where is the money at? It's when the market is volatile, and so it could be a good thing. And it could be a bad thing. And right now, if you go all in on Caleb Williams, so far, you're happy. I mean, right now, he is a top 3 quarterback in fantasy football. So far, you're happy with what you've gotten out of Caleb. There's a world where this marriage ends beautifully, and Caleb Williams ends up being one of those top 5, top 6 quarterbacks year in and year out. He's passing well. He's running the ball. There's another scenario which I think Matt is kind of leaning toward more a little bit, where the bottom could fall out on this, and maybe it doesn't work out as beautifully as we planned, and you could lose your initial investment. So I think of him as like a very volatile stock, a cryptocurrency that has a lot of potential upward movement, but there's a chance that the bottom could just drop out. So volatile is the word that I used for Caleb Williams. Let's go to Bucky Irving. What was the word for Bucky Irving, Matt?
My word was just wiggle, man. I obviously, you compare him to a couple other guys, specifically Rachaad White on his own team, and you don't get that kind of same movement. So when I see him, I think wiggle. I think of a guy that can make somebody miss, kind of in a phone booth, basically. So, right now he's looking at, I think he's running back around 16 yards after contact. So 100 yards after contact, not too shabby. So I don't know that there's really a big stat line or anything like that that's going to point towards that. But the eye test itself says this dude's got wiggle. I love what he brings to the table. But that, I don't know why wiggle was the first word that kind of popped into my brain when I thought of Bucky.
All right. Rich, what do you got?
Yeah, Wiggle's a great name of a Screeching Weasel album, but for me it was Deserving Irvin, because
Right.
he just really he deserves everything he gets. He's coming off a week 3 where he had 29 touches. That's the most he's ever had. It's gone up every single year or every single week. We've seen it go up more and more. And for me, you're right, Matt. Like, the numbers don't say how good Bucky's looked. And to be fair, like his offensive line has been decimated. Like he's getting hit a ton behind the line of scrimmage. They lost an offensive lineman for the year. They lost the other Gadecki. He's gonna miss like 3 to 4 games. The good news is Tristan Wirfs, their best offensive lineman, should be coming back very, very soon, either this week or the following week. Should help him a ton. But yeah, I mean, with Mike Evans going down now for 3 to 4 weeks with his hamstring injury, Chris Godwin's still on the cusp of coming back, but we don't know when.
So to your point, real quick, there is maybe a couple of stats that married together do paint a picture. Yards before contact, average 1.32, which is good for 54th, and the yards after contact 100. So I mean, and he's like in the top 10 of that. So there's a pretty big gap between, being a top 10 guy in yards after contact and 54th in yards before contact. So you're getting hit, ahead of the line or before the line of scrimmage quite a bit, or right at the line of scrimmage to be able to get 100 yards afterwards is pretty decent.
Deserving Irving.
I originally was going to go with trustworthy, but I was like, well, I want something more fancy than that. So we're going to go with irreproachable. Irreproachable is what we're going with here for Bucky. So far this year, he's just been a real steady Eddie type of guy. And last year we saw that too. Once he took over, only 2 games below 13 points last year. Once he took over in about week 6 or 7 there. And then this season, once again, every single week, he's above that like 13-point mark. He's just really, 13.9 this week. So he's just been really solid, really steady, really reliable. You can count on him. You don't have to worry about the matchups. He's going to either do it through the air, he'll do it on the ground, he'll get in the end zone. He's going to find a way to get the points. And so he is irreproachable and very trustworthy as a running back here. Last one, and then we're going to get out of here.
Real quick before we move on, he was actually 16th yards after contact. So I said like top 10.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that we were getting out good information. Yep.
All right. Close. Last one here. Rich. Dalton Kincaid.
Oh.
This is biased. Kincaidiac.
I was waiting for you to just say husband.
Yeah, it's too simple. That's easier. That's an easy way out. I'm just that. For me, it's husband. Yes, everybody else should be Kincaidiacs. It's just I still agree with Matt. Like we got to see that power, right? Like he should have had 3 touchdowns on Thursday night. The first one we saw, he had scored a touchdown. The second one, if he had what Matt's been asking for, a little bit more power, he instead of diving towards the end zone and going down at the 1 yard line, he would have barreled through and scored a touchdown. The other one, if he had a little bit more power, Josh Allen dropped a beautiful ball right at the end in the end zone on the sideline. The defender got his arm on his elbow. It was just enough to wiggle the ball free, but if you're stronger, you'd have had the ball there too. So it would have been turned into a massive day, and everybody would have easily been Kincaidiac shirts, right? People are going to be at home ripping out their shirts. I sent out a video because it said Dotson and Kincaid. Al Michaels heard about my love because I got so obsessed. He heard me screaming from Menor, Ohio. So I love the kid. I'm still in on him. I'm going to root for him hard. So until I'm booted off of the Love Island, I am still going to be husband / Kincaidiac.
All right, Matt. What do you got?
I mean, I think Rich kind of alluded to it. And out of the tight ends here, I think he's kind of a little loose maybe, or saggy end. He maybe needs to do a little butt lifting. I don't know. Saggy, I think I'm going to go with. And it's because he just needs to tighten up. He just needs to tighten up a little bit. You know what I mean? Just to tighten up those last little couple things like Rich already mentioned. I'm not going to re-mention the things that Rich already mentioned. But dude, just toughen up just a little bit. You got to tighten up that saggy, but that tight end. We got to tighten that thing up, dude. That's it.
Tighter tight end
for everybody.
What?
For everybody, it benefits everybody.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everyone needs tighter ends. All right. I pulled a Rich here, and I kind of cheated. This is definitely not one word, but it is now. And my one-ish word for Dalton Kincaid is, so you're telling me there's a chance. I was worried. I was really worried after last year. but seeing 2 games over 14 points, the targets that he's getting in this offense, it seems like everything that they kind of talked about last year and then in the offseason this year are actually starting to come together.
Second to Keon Coleman, and he's just, I think, 2 behind him or something. Yeah, I think Keon Coleman at 18, he has 16. targets.
Yeah, and that was propelled by that ridiculous week 1 where he had like 11 or 12 targets for Keon Coleman. So he's really dipped after that. So he's getting the looks that I was hoping he would get. And so, yeah, you tell me there's a chance.
All right. We'll be back with my tomorrow with my last show for 2 weeks because I am flying to London. So, yeah, tune in tomorrow for more Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Adios.